Shalom. Let's give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Let's giving all praises to the Most High, whose true name in ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, and the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. You know, our Lord and Savior, and the Holy Spirit, which would be the Rakakwadash. You know, but honor to the elders of GMS, who taught us the truth by the Holy Spirit. Honor to the brothers for risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Um, Peace and blessings to the elect, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel, but the elect, which would be the 1/3 of the Israelites, who are returning back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah in these last days for salvation. But yep. So we back with another live lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. This is prayer of Asaph 83, part 3. So we're gonna be going back into the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter. This is gonna be part 3. And in this part 3, we're gonna start from the top, you know, as we've been doing. So let me make sure this is live. This phone's wicked, man. Literally. Okay, bad. So yeah, we're gonna start from the top. This is Psalms 83 and 1. Keep not thou silence, O Lord, hold not thy peace, be not still, O Lord. It says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Let's see who the enemies of the Lord are. The enemies of the Lord are. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. So that's who the enemies of the Lord is. Those who take crafty counsel against his people, the Israelites, the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. And there's no secret that the whole world has a council against the 12 tribes today. It goes on to say, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So yeah, they tried to cut us off from being a nation, you know, so that the Israelites would be no more. Meaning what? We would be separated from Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah through our wickedness. And when we separated from Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah, we go into slavery. So long as the world can keep Israel in a low place, separated from our power, they can continue to reign over us and over the world. But when Israel returned back to their power, the other nations go down. And the Lord exalt Israel above everybody else. And that's what's coming to the earth. But we broke that down all the way in parts 1 and 2 the past couple weeks. But we're going to continue. For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. So those who rise up against the Lord and show their hatred for the Most High, by showing their hatred toward his people. Now it says the tabernacles of Edom. This is the so-called white man first. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Jabal and Ammon and Amalek, those fake Israelis. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. So it gets to list of the nations who's taking crafty counsel against the Lord. And this is not only history, but this is prophecy. But look at this. It says, a sword is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. But it says this in verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kissar. So yeah, Asaph goes into talking to the Lord, like, Lord, these other nations, your enemies rising up against your people. crafty counsel against your people. He lists the nations, Esau, Edom first. But then he says in verse 9, do unto them. Those who take crafty counsel against the Israelites, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Now we're going to read what the Lord did to the Midianites. It says, as to Sisera, as to Jabin. So we're going to read what happened to Sisera and Jabin and what the Lord did to them. We're going to go in those two accounts, and that's pretty much going to be the lesson for today. But just to sum it up, Asaph is praying to the Lord and asking the Lord, Lord, these Edomites, these Moabites, the people today that's obviously still oppressing us, Lord, do unto them as you did to those who oppressed us before. Do unto them as you did unto the Midianites. Do to them what you did to Jabin and Sisera. Now we're going to get it, but the Lord overthrew them. And we're going to get that account, and we're going to get at key points of it and show how it applies today in the spirit. So we had Judges 4. We're going to get verses 1 through 2. Now, here it says Deborah and Barak defeat Sisera. Because what did Asaph say? Do unto them as to Sisera and to Jabin. We're going to break that down first. So this is Judges 4:1. And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord when Ehud was dead. And that's no different today. Our people rebel against the Lord today. It says, and the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. And what? We sold into the hands of Esau, the so-called white man, today. And Esau, he's a spiritual Canaanite. Not in the literal sense, but he follows in the ways of Canaan. That's what the Epstein Island is about. Blood drinking, wicked sacrifices, and witchcrafts. So yeah, Esau learned that from Canaan. So Esau is spiritual Jabin, spiritual Canaan. We know they Edomites, but again, following the ways of Canaan. The Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor. The captain of hosts was Sisera, which dwelt in Harbosheth of the Gentiles. So yeah, Jabin, the king of Canaan, and the captain of his army was Sisera. And what did Asaph say, concerning those who take crafty counsel against the Lord's people? He said, do unto them as to Sisera and to Jabin. Now we about to read what the Lord did to them. But remember, it said the Lord sold his people to Jabin, the king of Canaan. Now we're going to jump here real quick to the book of Baruch. We're going to get Baruch 4:6 through 8. Now it say this. It says, you were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because you moved the Most High to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies. And that's the formula. When Israel go off, the Lord sell his people into the hands of the enemy. The various Gentile nations. We go into slavery, as it is today. How do we go into slavery, into the so-called white man? It wasn't just something that just happened. No, the Lord sent him against us to put us into slavery. It says, for you provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils and not to the Most High. Our people, 2/3 of our people going to continue to sacrifice to devils, meaning any and everything outside of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua. Rather that devil was money or women or wealth or fame, a lifestyle, whatever it may be. It says you have forgotten the everlasting God that brought you up. So yeah, people heart turn away from the Most High and they cleave to something else that brought you up, and you have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. So when Israel go off, we grieve the Most High and we polluted the Holy Land. But again, that's showing, Judges 4:1 through 2 today, how the Lord sold us into the hand of Jabin, the king of Canaan. Okay, so we got into that. Now we're going to continue on in the book of Judges. We're going to get 4 through 3. In the children of Israel, I'm going to start at the top again. Children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord when the hood was dead, and the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. And we know because Israel moved the Lord to wrath, he sold them to the nations, and this one was Canaan. It says that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. Now verse 3. And the children of Israel cried unto Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, for he had 900 chariots of iron. In 20 years, he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. See that? Israel cried out to the Lord. Jabin, the king of Canaanites, had a massive military, 900 chariots of iron, and he oppressed our people mightily, what it say, for 20 years. Now, we're going to show how this applies today. So we're going to come to the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 9. And before we get there, again, Judges 4 and 3. Why did the children of Israel cry to the Lord? Because he had 900 chariots and he oppressed the Israelites. So they cried out because of the oppression, and there was no way out. And this is Exodus 3 and 9. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me. And I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. And what? Our people are crying out to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua today. And the Lord is looking on our affliction and our oppression once again. Down here in spiritual Egypt, just like he did in ancient Egypt, which America is spiritual Egypt. That's how the pyramid is on the back of the dollar. This place and the oppression of our people and the idols of this place, very similar to ancient Egypt. But he says, I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Verse 10, come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, children of Israel, out of Egypt. So when the Lord hears the cry of his people, it looks on their oppression, the Lord is like, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to deliver my people out the hand of the oppressor. And then I also want to get this, because it said Jabin had 900 chariots. And in the spirit, that's Esau today. A massive military, a lot of military equipment, weapons, military bases, a massive army. And that's why when we come here to the book of Isaiah, we're going to get 31 and 3. Straight to the point. It says, now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. So yeah, and who's the spiritual Egyptian? Esau, the so-called white man, because America is spiritual Egypt. So this even applies today. As massive and intimidating as the fourth beast may be, the Roman Empire reincarnated America, NATO, who can make war with the beast, as many chariots and jet fighters as they got, the Lord said, they flesh and not spirit. Meaning what? Everything Esau got was built from the earth. So Esau's military is dirt. It's dirt. It's literally dirt. Technology, TV screens, radar systems, it's all dirt. It comes from the earth. And then oftentimes the Lord speaks to his prophets, he may call them son of man. And in some translations, it says son of dust. Son of dust. We literally come from the dirt. And Esau, no matter how advanced he may seem to be, all his stuff come from the dirt. This the lowest of the low. And what? The chariots of the Lord from the spiritual world, which is far above this place. So there's no competing. So we're going to get Judges 3 again, 4 and 3. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron. Esau today. And in 20 years, he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. And Esau, the white man, is oppressing the children of Israel far worse than any of our previous captivities. Now we're going to get Judges 4. It looks like we're going to get 4 through 15. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time. And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah. Trying to get to the point. And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abinoam, out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, have not the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, God of Israel, commanded, saying, go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali and the children of Zebulun. Then I will draw unto thee to the river of Kashan Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and with his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. So the Lord is coming up with a plan. He's going to overthrow Jabin, the king of the Canaanites, and his military under Sisera. And Barak said unto her, if thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go. And she said, surely I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding that the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor. For the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. Verse 10. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. So you're about to see the Canaanites be overthrown. And it's a particular way the Lord gonna do it. Now Heber the Kenite, which was of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, has severed himself from the Kenites and pitched his tent up to the plain of Zanayim, which is by Kadesh. It says, and they showed Sisera that Barak, the son of Abinoam, was gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles unto the river of Kashan. So Sisera and the army of the Canaanites with 900 chariots, they about to make a move on Israel. And Deborah sent unto Barak up for this day, in which the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua have delivered Sisera into thine hand. Is not the Lord gone out before thee? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. Is the point. Because Israel and the Canaanites, they're about to clash. And look at this, verse 15. And the Lord discomfited Sisera and all his chariots and all his hosts with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lighted down off his chariot and fled on his feet. But see that? It said the Lord discomfited Sisera and that Canaanite army. So what? The Lord was fighting on behalf of Israel. You know, just like he fought against the Egyptians. And I'm gonna get this real quick, because you know, in the days he saw the so-called white man, he about to make his move. So this is the book of Luke 21 and 25. Actually, it might be 21 and 20. It says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you will know that the time of its destruction has arrived. So what? Yeah, Esau gonna come in like a flood with his military and all these different, you know, agencies. And we see that happening now, you know, with ICE, you know, which is Trump's dirty police force. But yeah, Jerusalem, the people of Jerusalem here in America, is gonna be surrounded by armies. And that's why in the book of Judges, chapter 4, it says Sisera gathered all his chariots, even 900 chariots, and all the people that was with him to come up against Israel. But it said what? The Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, he discomfited Sisera. Now we're gonna go here to the book of Exodus 14 and 23. And we're gonna get through 25. It says, and the Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. So what? This is Israel being surrounded by armies again, by the armies of the Gentiles. It says, and it came to pass that in the morning watch, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud. And so that would be what? That chariot. The world calls it UFO. A cloud by day because it gave shade in the day. A fire by night because it gave light to the Israelites at night. It says, and troubled the host of the Egyptians. See that? The Lord troubled them. It says, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily. So the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. So yeah, the Lord literally fought against the Egyptians. Discomfited them, troubled them. And that's what we got in the book of Judges 4:15. I'm going to read that again. And the Lord discomfited Sisera and all his chariots and all his hosts with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lighted down off his chariot and fled away on his feet. So the Lord was giving them trouble. And this is what the Lord going to do to Esau, so-called white man, and his military here in this time. Them fighter jets, them battle destroyers, ain't going to stand a chance. I mean, look at what Iran is doing to them. They can't beat Iran, but they think they're going to fight Yahweh Shah. And then not just Esau the white man, the Lord going to take out all of the militaries in the earth. Chinese, the Russians, Europe, India, Pakistan, Japan, Korea. The Lord about to overthrow everybody. Now we're going to get Judges 4. Be back there. We're going to get 16 through 23. It says, but Barak pursued after the chariots and after the host, unto Harosheth of the Gentiles, and all the hosts of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left. So the Lord troubled them and weakened them, and then Sisera and this man, they finished them. It says, howbeit Sisera fled away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. And I believe this guy, Heber the Kenite, was Moses' father-in-law or something like that, or son of the father-in-law. So he had ties to Israel. It says in Jael, which is the wife of Heber, went out to meet Sisera and said unto him, turn in, my lord, turn in to me, fear not. And when he turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said unto her, give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk and gave him drink and covered him. And he said unto her, stand in the door of the tent, and it shall be, when any man doth come and inquire of thee, and say, is there any man here, that thou shalt say no. So Sisera is telling Jael, the wife of Heber, who has ties with Israel, that somebody come looking for me, they say no. And Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent and took a hammer in her hand and went softly unto him and smote the nail into his temples and fastened it into the ground. For he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. So yeah. So yep, Sisera, fled on foot, and then got took out by a woman. And it says, and behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him and said unto him, come, and I will show thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So God subdued that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel. Now, yeah, and the Lord's about to subdue Esau, the so-called white man. And when we get this, Exodus 14, it looked like we're going to get 13 through 15. And forgive me, that just kind of bugging me. It says, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still. Matter of fact, let me go up a little bit. Matter of fact, we're going to, forgive me, we're going to start at verse 12. Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. So here's Pharaoh and the army of the Egyptians chasing the Israelites, and Israel thought they was about to get cut off. They was cornered, no way out, surrounded, no food, nothing with them. So they thought they was gonna die, and they was complaining to Moses. And Moses said unto the people, fear ye not. And see, Israel gonna be troubled too, because see, Israel gonna have that same mentality when Jacob's trouble come. When Esau, the so-called white man, mandate the mark of the beast, which is the microchip, we gonna tell our people, hey, you gotta resist. You gotta continue to flee and run and hide and trust on the Lord, even though we're not gonna have nothing, but we gotta. See, my phone been tripping today. And see, Israel, gonna be faint-hearted. They're gonna get upset with us, not only because of the truth, but the trouble we gonna go through to try to endure in this truth and resist this beast system. Our people gonna be like, man, F it, man. Let's take the microchip. Let's just continue working under Esau, the so-called white man, because being on the run ain't working so good for us. That's how they gonna feel, and that's how they feel running from Pharaoh. But like Moses, he said unto the people, fear ye not. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, which he will show you today. And that's what we're going to tell the people. Hey, when it says stand still and watch, hey, that's what the scriptures say. Blessed is he who waiteth for the Lord. Stand still and watch the salvation of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. When there's no way out, we gonna get that help from heaven. That's gonna be activated. When there's no way out, then the Lord gonna show himself and do a work that we can't believe. But that's how the Lord likes to show up. He like to show up and do the impossible. Hey, defy all odds. See the salvation of the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. And that's what's coming to Esau, the so-called white man. Jacob's trouble, when he come with his military, come with them guillotines, trying to microchip our people, trying to exterminate our people, eradicate our people. What Moses said, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. That's all we got to do. People be like, what we going to do in this day? Hey, we going to stand still and watch and wait on Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. We gonna do nothing because we can only do nothing. One of them quotes I heard on John Wick, when they killed his dog, the father told his son, you're gonna do nothing because you can only do nothing. John Wick coming, and then that's it. I really represent Yahweh Shah. It says the Lord shall fight for you and you shall hold your peace. Hold your peace meaning what? Stay still, watch, wait, believe, trust, keep the faith. Ain't nothing we can do. That's why it says, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And again, verse 14, the Lord shall fight for you, you shall hold your peace. That's what's coming. The Lord about to come and fight for the 1/3 of Israel, the elect. And we gonna need it. Verse 15, and the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? So Israel was crying, bugging Moses. Moses crying out to the Lord. The Lord said, why are you crying to me? Speak to the children of Israel that they may go forward. And you got to keep that same mentality no matter how tough it gets. Crying out ain't going to change anything. So we cry out to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, but crying and complaining because it ain't going, because it don't seem like things are going well, that ain't going to do nothing. Just holding up progress. A waste of energy, a waste of breath. You might as well save your breath because you're going to need it. So the extra complaining and crying out, asking this, asking that, just wait on Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. So verse 15 again, the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speaking to the children of Israel, the Lord was fighting against Sisera and that Canaanite army. It says Sisera lighted down off his chariot, fled away on foot. And then verse 21, Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent and took a hammer in her hand and went softly unto him and smote the nail into his temples and fastened it unto the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. So she put a nail through his head. And what a nail looked like? It looked like a nuclear missile. And again, it says, verse 23, so God subdued on the day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before all the children of Israel. And, that was the point. Pretty much the Lord overthrew him to the point there was no coming back. We know the Lord fought that battle. And the Lord's going to fight our battle. And back to the book of Exodus 14. It says, straight to the point, thus the Lord saved Israel that day out the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah and believed him and his servant Moses. Then back to Judges 4:24, it says, and the hand of the children of Israel prospered and prevailed against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. So Israel prospered and prevailed, over the Canaanites. And it was the Lord that did it for them. Now back to the book of Psalms 83. The whole reason we bring this out, because how it starts off in 1 through 5. Thy enemies have lifted up the head. They take a crafty counsel against thy people. They said, let us cut off Israel from being a nation. Then in verse 6, it lists the tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, the Hagarenes, Jabal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistines, inhabitants of Tyre, Assur, the children of Lot. Then what does Asaph say in verse 9? Do unto them as unto the Midianites. Do unto them as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kishon. And we know what the Lord did to Jabin and Sisera. He discomfited Sisera and his army. The Lord fought them personally. Then we know Jabin took a nail to the head. That represents the nuclear missile. And what the Lord is weakening the nations now through this war. And then it's going to be topped off with the nuclear destruction. That's going to be that nail in the coffin. It's going to be a nuclear missile. Hey, that's what the nail to his head represents. That was the nail in the coffin. Well, in this lifetime, again, it's going to be a missile. So that's why Asaph said, do unto them as to Sisera and to Jabin. The Lord going to do that to Esau, the so-called white man, but really all these nations, but mainly Esau, Edom. Hey, Shalom to the brother Yuanathan Bakar. Shalom to the daughter Yahweh. Shalom to the sister Marilyn Diaz. Yeah, Yahweh Bashim y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. So again, back to Psalms 83 and 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kishon. So Asaph is praying to the Lord. Lord, you remember what you did before. When the nations oppressed Israel. Can you do it again? Can you do it to Edom? Can you do it to Moab? Can you do it to Ishmael? In this lifetime, the Lord gonna honor the prayer of Asaph, which is really the prayer of the elect. the house of David. Now, again, it says, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Now we're going to jump into that account. And for there, we're going to be mainly in Judges 6 and 7. We're going to show the parallels today and how the Lord worked back then. He's gonna work that same formula against Esau Edom. And really, all the previous judgments of the empires that came before, the nations that oppressed us throughout the book of Judges, the Lord gonna do all that working, all them works against Esau Edom. So this is the book of man. This is Judges 6 and 1. We're gonna read what the Lord said to the Midianites. So we're gonna get Judges 6. It looks like we're gonna get 1 through 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And we know what? We sold to the nations because we moved the Most High to wrath. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel. Because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites, them fake Israelis, pretty much Esau, and the children of the east, even they came up against them. So you see the nations gathering together to try to cut off Israel, just like in Psalms 83. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou come unto Gaza and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. So pretty much cut off Israel, cornered them off, and then they had no supply of food. And it says, for they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. So when it says they came as grasshoppers for multitude, it was just showing you how many Midianites and Amalekites and the other nations of the east, it showed you how deep they was. You know, how many people they came with. The Lord said they was like grasshoppers. When you think about the locusts and the plagues of Egypt, it says, for they and their camels were without number. You couldn't count them. And they entered into the land to destroy it. It says, and Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And here in America, we have had everything taken from us. And that's the curses. We serve our enemies for the one of all things. Hunger, nakedness, and thirst. So we've been impoverished greatly here in America. And it's about to get worse. You know, Esau, instead of Hormuz being closed off, the food supply about to be cut off, everything Israel depend on about to be cut off. So just as the Midianites, you know, cut off our food and water supply, Esau gonna do that in this lifetime, and we're gonna be greatly impoverished. That's what Jacob's trouble was about. Now we're gonna get this in the book of Isaiah 3 and 1. And it say this: the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua will take away from Jerusalem and Judah, meaning the 12 tribes here in America, will take away from Jerusalem and Judah everything they depend on. Every bit of bread, every drop of water, bitch. And you know, everything we depend on, that's air, heat, vehicles, internet, electricity, cell phones, social media, entertainment, everything the people live on, everything people depend on, and everything the people live for about to be cut off here in America. That's going to be Israel being greatly impoverished. And how is the Lord going to cut it off? By his sword Esau. Esau's blessing is a sword. He's going to use the sword to cut off the food supply and everything else we depend on. So just like in the book of Judges 6, Israel was greatly impoverished. We about to be like that again here in America. But when we get this in the book of Psalms 34, We're going to get 17 through 18. What it say? The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles. So when we greatly impoverished, and these are the white man's coming up against us with his military, um, everybody gonna cry out, but only the righteous is gonna be delivered. See, the righteous gonna call on the name Jehovah Bashim Yahweh. That's gonna be that elect, and we're gonna be delivered out of all our troubles, being pursued by the sword, being greatly impoverished, being on the run, having nothing to our name. And the Lord gonna deliver us out of them troubles. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart. That's the righteous. We the house of mourning, seeking repentance, salvation, what's pleasing to the Lord, and save of such as be of a contrite spirit. And that represents the elect. That's what the Lord gonna save in his lifetime. Not the 2/3 of Israel who will continue in their wickedness and in their rebellion and in their pride against the Most High. But again, this is Judges 6:6. Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. No food, no water, no vegetation, no cattle. Forced Israel into hiding. They said the Amalekites, the Midianites, and the children of the east came like grasshoppers. You couldn't number them. But it said Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. The children of Israel cried out to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh. And the scriptures say enemy gonna come in like a flood. So Esau gonna be without number. UN troops, foreign troops, Edomites, you know, killer robots, killer drones, gonna be without number. And we gonna cry out. Now this is Judges 6, we're gonna get 7 through 16. And it came to pass when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh, because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh, God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt and brought you forth out the house of bondage. Now, how does that apply today? Do we not tell our people this today? That, you know, we as a prophet of the Lord being sent into the 12 tribes, like, hey, this is the God of our forefathers. Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh, the God of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is the Lord, the God that brought us out of Egypt. Read that again. The Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which sent it to them. Thus says the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahweh, God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt and brought you forth out the house of bondage, and I delivered you out the hand of the Egyptians and out the hand of all that oppressed you, and drave them out from before you and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahweh, your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell, but ye have not obeyed my voice. So we come as a prophet to our people, reminding them what the Lord did to those before who oppressed us. And to what? Well, not the Amorites today, but don't fear the gods of the Edomites. Don't fear Esau. Don't fear him, his military, his AI. And there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak, which is in Ophrah, and pertained unto Joash the Abizrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. It says, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. The mighty man of valor today would be the 144,000. And really an angel appeared to us as well. Not in a way that we could see it, but in the spirit. Because we about to see this angel about to activate Gideon. Right? Just as the Lord sent the Holy Spirit to activate the 144,000 here in the last days. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befalling us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us of, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? So you're asking, if the Lord's with Israel, why are we in this horrible situation? What about all the miracles he did before? But now the Lord hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hand of the Midianites. And it's gonna look like the Lord is delivering us over to Esau. Because they said we're gonna barely escape. And the Lord looked upon him and said, go in this thy might, that thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent thee? So the angel of the Lord looked at Gideon and said, hey, that Gideon, he's going to save Israel from the Midianites. See, the 144,000 going to save the house of Israel from Esau. And then the Lord going to top it off. And he said unto him, O Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And that applies to the 144,000. Hey, we poor. No matter how much money you got, we poor. We got no military, no government, no influence. We don't own nothing, so we the poor. Even if you are 6 and 7 figure, you still poor. Why? Because we under the curses. And then really, the profits, the 144,000 a day. You know, a lot of brothers doing decent, but you know, for the most part, there's nothing special about where we come from. We the poor. And then what it say? I am the least in my father's house, and we the least in our family too. You know, typically we the black sheep of our family. You know, the least goes into being insignificant. You know, so to the world and to our families, we insignificant. We the black sheep. They may say we the weird one, and that applies to all the believers. But you see, Gideon is telling the angel of the Lord, hey, there's nothing special about me. And Moses said the same thing to the Lord. You know, who am I to go to Israel? Moses said he wasn't a good speaker, so how I'm going to speak to Israel, how I'm going to speak to Pharaoh. And what the Lord activated Moses, the Lord activated Gideon. The Lord activated the 144,000 here in this lifetime. He said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. So the Lord gonna use one man to lead the charge against the Midianites and the Amalekites. And it ain't one that the Lord has activated in this lifetime. It's 144,000. Some may be in the spirit world, some are here now. Now, let's grab this real quick. This is the book of Zechariah 12 and 8. Because again, what did Gideon say? I'm poor, the least in my father's house. You know, what's so special about me? How I'm going to save Israel from the Midianites? Well, this is Zechariah 12 and 8. It says, in that day, the Lord shall defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, which you know is the mightiest man ever created. But it said the weak of our people gonna be like David. And the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So the house of David, the Lord gonna do to them, they're gonna pretty much be angels in the earth. They're gonna be like gods before men. So we're gonna have God-like power in the earth. That's how we're gonna save Israel. And again, meaning, you know, the Lord gonna lift up that standard. We're gonna defend ourselves and have a way out until Yahweh shall bring that salvation. But in this lifetime, you know, the service, the prophets are gonna be like David, gonna be like angels of the Lord. Gonna have God-like powers, spiritual powers. Now continuing on, this is Judges 7. We're gonna get 1 through 7. Because you see Gideon about to get active. It says then Jerubbaal who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early. Now keep in mind that Midianites and the Amalekites, they gathered together to come up against Israel. And all the people that were with him rose early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites unto their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves, saying, against me my own hand have saved. If y'all win, y'all gonna think y'all did it. So the Lord said to Gideon, I'm deliver the Midianites into y'all hand, but he's gonna do it with less people. It says, God have delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeb. And what was I able to do? Hold on, damn thing be jumping. Now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000. So yeah, how that can apply today? Everybody not a teacher, everybody not a prophet. You know, everybody ain't made to be on the front line. And what the Lord said to them, those who are fearful, tell them to go home. That wasn't a battle for them to fight. And again, everybody not meant to be on the front line bringing out the word. It says also, verse 4, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. So 22,000 left, and 10,000 remain, but the Lord said, even at 10,000, that's too many. Bring them down into the water, and I will try them there. I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee. The same shall go with thee. And of whomever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So the Lord about to separate who's going to go with Gideon into the battle. So he brought down the people into the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, everyone that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink, I'm gonna read that in the NLT. That's just a tongue twister for some reason. So the 10th, Judges 7. So verse 4, Judges 7-4 in the NLT. But the Lord told Gideon, there are still too many, bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not. When Gideon took his warriors down to the water, the Lord told him, divide the men into two groups. And one group put all those who cup water into their hands and lap it up with their tongues like dogs. And the other group put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouth in a stream. So again, the two groups, one who cup the water in their hands and they lick it up, like a dog. That's one group. Now the other group, it would be those who get on their knees and drink out the river, by putting their face into the river to drink of it. And the wisdom behind that, the Lord decided based on how you drunk that water, that was going to decide who goes into battle with Gideon and who will be not sent into the battle. So those who cup the water in their hands and lick it up, like a dog, well, they were still on their feet. They face one in the river. So meaning what? They could drink the water, but they were still on their watch. So they were on guard. Versus those who got on their knees, now you're no longer on your feet. You got on your knees and put your face in the water. So you're not on your feet, you're not on guard, and you're not keeping watch. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's just how the Lord was going to work a miracle through Gideon and through a few men. Pretty much the men who got on their knees and put their face in the water to drink of it, they um, the Lord wasn't going to send them in the battle. Nothing against them. That's just how the Lord was going to separate who goes to war and who stays behind. It says only 300 of the men drank from their hands. So they was able to drink on their feet and keep watch. All the others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths in the stream. And what? Even today, the men who bring out this word, hey, we got to stand stiffly and we got to keep watch. Goes on to say, the Lord told Gideon, with these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home. So the Lord about to work a miracle. He's about to overthrow the Midianites and the Amalekites. And again, in Judges 6, it said they were like grasshoppers, meaning you couldn't number them. It was like a swarm of them. You couldn't count them. And the Lord's going to defeat all those Midianites and Amalekites and the children of the east. The Lord was going to slay them with only 300 men. Now the movie 300, of course they get it from the scriptures. And the Spartans were really Israelites. But that's beside the point. Now this is the book of First Maccabees. I think we're going to get 3 and 13. We're going to get a little backstory behind it. Now when Saran, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and it accompanied. This goddamn phone is tripping, man. So again, the Lord said 300 men. That's who's going to overthrow the Midianites and the Amalekites. And that's how the Lord often works. So he was bringing out in First Maccabees, the 3rd chapter. You got Syria and others, a great multitude, a great army. They're going to team up with the children of Israel. It says, so he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, meaning the other nations, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. And when he came near, going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company. So Judas, the Israelites, they came with a small number of people to meet the king of Syria and the multitude of people that he gathered. Who when they saw the host coming to meet him, said unto Judah. Actually, I might have got that information wrong. It looked like the king of Syria about to go to war against the Israelites. Syria and the other nations about to go to war against Israel. Forgive me on that. Verse 16 again. And when he came near of the going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet him, said unto Judah, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong? So the Israelites with Judas, they asking him, we only got a few men compared to this multitude of people that we about to fight. And with few men, how are we going to defeat them? Seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day. So they was outnumbered and they were weakened because they had been fasting. Unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. So the Lord can easily have a few overthrow many. And with the God of heaven, It is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. So again, with the Most High, he can deliver his people with a great multitude or a small army. See, numbers don't matter with Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. And that few could go to the 144,000, or it could just be one. And that goes into Yahweh Shah. It says, for the victory of the battle standeth not in the multitude of a host, but strength cometh down from heaven. So the outcome of a battle ain't determined by the number of your military, by the equipment of your military. That don't determine the outcome of the battle. But the outcome of the battle is determined in the heavens. That's why America gonna lose. That's why they losing right now against Iran. Because on paper, America should be tearing Iran up. But again, the victory of the battle ain't determined by the number of the hosts or what kind of weapons you got. And why is that important? Well, let's get this real quick. Because when we come to the book of Isaiah, we're going to get 59 and 19. It says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood. See that? The enemy going to come in like a flood. Meaning you can't count them. They're going to be everywhere. There's going to be an overwhelming presence of Esau's military, the other nations, killer robot, drone technology, AI bots. Enemy going to come in like a flood. It says what? The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. Because again, the victory of the battle ain't determined by numbers. It's not determined by how many weapons you got or how great your military is. The Lord can deliver with a great multitude, or he can deliver with a few. And in the book of Judges, I believe you're going in the 6th or 7th chapter, the Lord going to use 300 men to deliver Israel from the Midianites and the Amalekites. So you know, Esau, everything is a numbers game. Numbers don't matter where Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. Now, continue on, Judges 7:15 through 22. And it was so when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshiped and returned into the host of Israel and said, arise, for Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah have delivered into your hand the host of Midian. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies. And he put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. So Gideon giving them the rundown of the battle plans. When I blow the trumpet, I and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of all the camp. And say, the sword of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai and of Gideon. And what's that trumpet today that we blow? It's the word. And that lamp, that's the word. So Gideon and 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch. And they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers and held the lamps in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried the sword of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp. And all the hosts ran and cried and fled. So what? Pretty much when you read in the NLT, it says it put the Midianites in a great panic. And they ran away. They supposed to be going to war against Israel. And with 300 men, they put a scare into them, and the Midianites fled away. And 300 blew the trumpets. And the Lord said, every man, excuse me, excuse me. All right. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the hosts. And the host fled to Bethsheba and Zerath into the border unto Tabbath. So we're gonna read these in the NLT, Judges 7:21 and 22. It says, each man stood in his position around the camp and watched as the Midianites had rushed around in a panic, shouting as they ran to escape. When the 300 Israelites blew their trumpet, the Lord caused the warriors in the camp to fight against each other with their swords. Those who were not killed fled to places far away. So the Lord had the Midianites get up in a panic, and they started killing each other. And see, the Lord, and we're going to work that same miracle here in the earth. Because what the Lord going to have these other nations destroy each other. The Lord going to have the house of Esau destroy themselves. And that's why when we get this in Ezekiel 38, and we know Ezekiel 38 is a chapter that deals with World War III. Ezekiel 38, we're going to get 21. And it say this, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains. The mountains representing what? Kingdoms, nations, empires, different countries, different world leaders. I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, meaning all over the earth, except the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. That's what World War III going to be about. Every man's sword going to be against his brother. That's why you got, China against Taiwan, China against Japan, North Korea against South Korea, Ukraine versus Russia, America versus Russia, Europe versus America, Canada versus America. You got India versus Pakistan. That's every man's sword being against his brother. Now let's read Judges. I think I left it already. Let's read Judges 7 and 22 again. When the Israelites blew their ram's horns, the Lord caused the warriors in the camp to fight against each other with their swords. And them swords gonna be them nuclear missiles. The Lord gonna have the nations destroy themselves. And with the most destruction coming to Esau, Edom. That's what World War III gonna be about. Every man's sword gonna be against his brother. And ultimately, that's dealing with the house of Esau. That's why when we come here to the book of Matthew 12 and 25, to 26, Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto him, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. So what? America is a kingdom, and this place is divided on many levels, over many things, and more divisions are coming. This place can't do nothing but fall. Which we read it in the NLT, it says, any kingdom divided by civil war is doomed. Back to the KJV in verse 25, every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. America is divided against itself, it cannot stand. But bigger picture, this is the house of Edom divided against himself. America against Canada, Europe against America, and mainly America against Russia. That's a house divided. The house of Esau, Edom. They divided. It says, if Satan cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? And we know what? Esau is going to cast out Esau. The Lord going to use the house of Esau to destroy themselves. Fulfilling Ezekiel 38:21. Every man gonna have his sword against his brother. That's what the Lord did to the Midianites. That's what the Lord gonna do to these nations today. Beginning with Esau, Edom, so-called white man. This is Judges 7:23 through 25. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali and out of Asher and out of Manasseh and pursued after the Midianites. And Gideon sent messengers throughout the Mount Ephraim, saying, "Come down against the Midianites and take before them the waters unto Bethabara and Jordan." Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters unto Bethabara and Jordan. And they took the two princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb, and they slew Oreb upon the rock Oreb. And Zeb they slew at the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. So with 300 men, the Lord defeated the Midianites. But we want to deal with this in verse 23. Matter of fact, I'm going to start at verse 22 again. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow. So the Midianites, the Lord had them start killing each other. They woke up in a panic, started killing each other. And see, the nations are in a panic now. And that's going to lead to what? Every man's sword being against his fellow. Every man lifting his sword against his brother. World War III, the nuclear missiles. And then right after that, it says, and the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites. So after they started killing each other, they were weakened, diminished in number, and then the Israelites pursued them and finished them off. And that's going to play out what? Because after the nuclear destruction, when the nations destroy each other, the Lord said one in Jeremiah, he's going to send for many hunters. So that's why, again, verse 22, it said, the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the hosts. Then right after, in verse 23, the men of Israel gathered together and pursued the Midianites. So after World War III, we're going to pursue those left remaining in the earth, in them deep underground military bunkers, or wherever they may be. And that's why Jeremiah 16:16, behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, and they shall fish them. That process is happening now. And after, I will send for many hunters. That's going to be after World War III. It says, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out the holes of the rocks. So yeah, after the nations lift up the sword against each other, you know, who's ever left remaining after World War III, they're going to go into hiding, and then what? The Lord going to send for many hunters. So back to the book of Psalms 83. I'm going to get, I guess, 4 through 9. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Jabal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Verse 9, do unto them as unto the Midianites. So the Lord, so Asaph is saying the nations, beginning with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, that oppressed Israel, do to Edom what you did to the Midianites. Do unto Moab what you did to the Midianites. Do to Ishmael what you did to the Midianites. And that's what the Lord gonna do. And how did the Lord defeat them? Well, first, he used only a few men. That's 144,000 today. That's few compared, you know, to the militaries of the world. And then the Lord had them kill each other. They started panicking. They started killing each other. And then the Lord sent his 300 hunters after those that were left. So after the nuclear destruction, the Lord going to send 144,000 hunters to hunt out those remaining of the house of Esau and all the other nations. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kishon. What the Lord do to Jabin and Sisera? It said the Lord discomfited Sisera and his army. Jabin, the king, he fled. Them the wicked elites. How he went into that lady's tent, that's gonna be them going into the underground bunkers. And when they go in them underground bunkers, best believe they're gonna be killing each other. And then like hunters, anybody left, you're gonna go and snatch them up. They're gonna go in chains. So verse 9, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kishon, which perished at Endor, they became as dung for the earth. And that's gonna be their fate. It's either they're gonna be dung for the earth, they're gonna be fertilizer, or they going in chains. But the point is, Asaph said, do unto them as unto the Midianites. Do unto them as to Sisera and Jabin. And that's what the Lord gonna do. Pretty much, Asaph is reminding the Lord of what he did before. And asking him to do it again to deliver his people. And that's what we're about to see. And that's right. The sister said nothing impossible for Yahweh Shah. Yeah, we about to see what he could do. Psalm 118:1, unfathomable love and mercy. That's going to be to the elect. So when we see the Lord let loose on these nations, that's going to be mercy for the elect. So, Lord willing, that was informative, edifying. Let's give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Bakakwadash. Double honor to the elders of GMS who taught us the truth. Honor to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. And shalom to the elect. And should be our Lord willing tomorrow. And shalom.